This is like Dateline.
Just like daylight.
Sweet.
What does it mean to be a chef? It depends on whom you ask. For Chef Brendon Edwards, the response is poetic. His portrait of this culinary lifestyle comes from his experiences cooking around the world. So, to him, what does it mean to be a chef?
Well, I'm Brendon Edwards from Michigan, the land of so much produce and things that's amazing and delicious. And I started becoming interested in food because it was something that brought everyone together from a big family that is mostly farmers or blue collar workers. And so we always got together around food, and it was always something that's important. And when it's something like that's important to you, it often leaves a lasting impact. Creating community has always been important to me because of that, and with me trying to find a way when my high school counselors are asking you on a daily basis of what kind of profession you want to go into, there was only a few things I could think about that ever held my interest long enough, and one of them happened to be food and culture. Um, that being said, I think I had so many doubts, and those doubts went all the way down into how much money you're going to make to how long will this hold your interest? Because I know I have a very spicy brain, as I feel like a lot of people have. And so uh, the cool thing about cooking is that there's so many different avenues to go down, whether it's art, restaurants and service, um, culture, going to different lands. I got to live in Mexico and Japan and spent time in LA and Chicago. From Michigan, so we have we have an array of different seasons that kind of depicts everywhere in the U.S. in some form, which I feel very lucky about because you're kind of forced into things.
For a job needing to be done in any industry, anywhere, there are tools to help the operator complete the job. In Chef Brendon's case, the tools, they're knives. It's safe to say that for someone to be serious about their craft or job, the tools must be in great working condition. In Chef Brendon's case, they need to be sharp.
Part of getting into food is also getting into all the aspects that makes it worthwhile to get into food. And one of those things is being a chef, wanting to be a chef of some form, is you have to have tools. Any blue collar person has tools. You're a carpenter, electrician, house framer, whatever it may be. Most important one for almost any chef that will say anything and kind of shows you what you're worth, like whatever that phrase is of like being worth your salt, which I think is very chefy, but is making sure you have the right tools. I think everyone notices like when a chef has knives, uh, you think of it and it's razor edge. Got to keep that stuff sharp. And although that's mostly true, chefs have a blue collar life. Like you struggle, you don't sleep much, especially early on, and maybe even later on. But that's one of those notes where, like, if your knife isn't performing well, it doesn't work well. My parents always noted to me, "Your knives are way too sharp for me," And I understand that because I think what a knife does is it gets you from point A to point B. And point A to point B can either be fun and exhilarating, or it can be treacherous and make you never want to do it again. I find it a lot like how you see someone drive a car. There's professionals. They drive these F1 racing cars. They scream around corners. They hold tight. They have to be tuned up every however many laps. And if you were an average person, I totally understand when you're my mom or my dad or a family member and you're like, your knives are too sharp. Because same thought, your car can go really fast. And so a sharp knife is really meant to be something where it doesn't hinder you from going the speed you need to go. That being said, a sharp knife is fast.
There are a few things considered to be quote-unquote universal languages: music, art, mathematics, and of course, food. The idea of food not only transcends demographics and geographics, but also language barriers. Food is the ultimate connector of people, whether that's through experiences, cultures, or emotions. It can express love, hospitality, happiness. Some of our favorite memories are through sharing a meal.
I started trying to make sure that my knives are tuned up and proper every single day. Most of the places I worked at in Chicago that had Michelin stars or were noted by Michelin, or in Detroit or in LA or wherever I may be, all those places, I always took pride in people noting that like my knives were going to be some of the sharpest in the kitchen. Part of me just kind of hyper focusing on making sure I have one element of my blue collar work down pat. And so when I'm doing these things, I started to learn it because I took pride in it. And even noticing when I moved to Mexico, the kitchen of where I was at in Mexico, these guys were still taking care of their knives. And they were taking care of them not with the nicest Japanese stones, but whatever they had on hand because they needed them to perform. Whereas as I moved on, went to culinary school and eventually moved to Japan, when I moved to Japan, there was that moment where you realize that the culture of taking care of what you have, being a good steward, is one of the most important things you can do. A knife is an extension of who you are as a tool. And realistically, if you aren't taking care of it, then you aren't doing your job right. And so in doing that, not only did it make it more easier and more enjoyable, but it was a daily exercise and habitual care of what you were responsible for. Every knife that was ever touched in Japan, every single day, was sharpened again. It hit a stone. If you used it to cut one green onion, it was sharpened again. And therefore, you never needed to hone your knife for the day. There's even like the spirit there too that I love, which is probably why I started just hoarding knives to some degree, which is that like you need to give your knives a sense of rest. So if you used a knife 1 day or 2 days in a row, you wanted to let it chill for a minute, even though you sharpened it, but you gave it time and gave other knives a chance out of respect for your tools. And just that rhythmic experience is one of those things that pulls you in, that like makes you feel like you're breathing every day.
If you have ever been around a professional kitchen, you know that there are immense levels of pressure, stress, and excitement. When done well, these same feelings portrayed on television or at the movies can be palpable. You can feel it. And in some cases, these emotions people feel can become addictive at a certain level.
So I think one of the things that people are really intrigued about in terms of being a chef is like what your day-to-day life is. And I think people are becoming more conscious of it because you have shows and movies that have started to become cultural, uh, specifically in America, but I think across the world and across like more developed countries that have this like broad base of bringing people in and having these fine dining experiences. Um, the interesting part to that is like those experiences, although they're so specific because they're fine dining and they're not approachable to everyone, they're still approachable because it's a daily task for every single person on this earth. And so part of, I think, this point of being a chef is um, you're starting to see the rhythm of how a kitchen goes. Uh, and for me, sometimes reliving it is a lot traumatic because it's chaotic. The way a kitchen works, uh, whether it's starting with prep and having all these components that lead up to a big show, like a play, we're producing something that's significant to people, even at a bar. Uh, because when your grandma's at home and she's making you some amazing dishes that are your family favorites, and it's coming from a farm or from the family recipes, those are all coming into the kitchen. And whether you're a chef or a grandma doing those things, all those things are kind of funneling into this point of a day that requires technical skill, timing, and a weird amount of stress that somehow becomes addictive. So as far as I'm concerned, the thing that people don't see for me is how chefs often go through these like very stressful 12 plus hour shifts. Um, in Japan, I spent 110 to 120 hours in a kitchen on a weekly basis. In the US, it's not odd for me to be in a kitchen for 80 hours a week. Um, and this is the part where I start to like part from the average American, is that I have like this understanding that when people come in and you have this kitchen culture, this life culture, that you can maybe see it in the way your grandma cooks, but you don't see how it works in the shows, in the experience of a day-to-day life in a chef. And I think that's also part of what's important and keeps you coming back, because you go in, it's chaos, it happens, and then you have these down moments too. These moments of peace and serenity when you turn off the hood fans, when you first arrive to work and the entire kitchen just smells of broth and stocks and these things that have been simmering all night. Those are those quiet moments um, that are meaningful. I think sharpening knives is the same thought as well. It's one of your quiet moments. A roller coaster would not be fun if it was just a constant fall, drop, and loop process. You need these moments in your life, no matter how much adrenaline that courses through your veins and you crave it. Um, you need these moments of peace and serenity as well. And so I think that's the dichotomy of seeing life as a chef and what happened with me of wanting to find other avenues and go into things that aren't just the chaos that you see of the moment of service, of the moment when you make someone happy. Um, but it's all those other little moments that build up to it. From the small smells to hearing the grinding of a fresh knife to having a cold beverage at the very end of your night, and when you turn those hood fans off, and then everything is fine with the world. For a moment, at least. All the craziness, all the things that you chased after all day stop and they calm. And so my life as a chef has just been a lot of that. You see me in the chaos, and you see me move through my day, and I live in the smallest moments of peace, of which you chase after too, because you don't just chase after that crazy Saturday night that went perfectly smooth, despite the fact everything should have kind of gone wrong.
We began with a question. What does it mean to be a chef? For Chef Brendon Edwards, it means a sense of community, hard work, life experiences, the rush of kitchen chaos, and the serenity which follows in those quiet moments. On so many levels, food is fascinating. And after speaking with Chef Brendon, it is the human element that may be the most intriguing of them all.